to all you from Italy. Let me say thanks to the Passion University and to the organizers. This meeting allows us to try to talk about the concept of a smart city and clarify what is sustainability. It's easy to understand that smart city is a consequence of the total and successful application of almost perfect sustainability. Many cities around the world today define themselves as smart city. From San Francisco to Copenhagen, from Singapore to Florence. Also, Kyiv has been working for years, and many people are working hard on it. But what is a smart city? What are its requirements? I believe that the best definition of all this can be found in the Telosa project, in the desert of the USA. It's the ideal city project that should start in 2030, thanks to the Danish Bjarke Ingels Group and the money of the multi-billionaire Mark Lohr. Sustainable building materials, autonomous vehicles, electric plants, and underground movement of materials. The project imagines a city tailored to people, where bicycles and pedestrians have priority. Self-driving cars move slowly and people can find safe places. In public outdoor spaces to congregate. Training centers, cultural institutions and shops take place along the shady public streets, facilitating sociability throughout the year. Telosa will have a density of 33 people per acre. Consumption equal to 0 and emission reduced. According to the project, this dreamed city will be equipped with a system for the recovery of rainwater and the treatment of greywater. A smart grid powered exclusively by renewable energy will supply the entire city without the need for other energy sources. The buildings will be net zero energy, built with sustainable and high-performance materials. The environment will be a priority, both by allowing the inhabitants to have easy access to large public parks and by containing pollution emissions by improving air quality. An inclusive city that guarantees equal opportunities. All citizens of Telosa will have equal access to training and health care. In addition, the governance and economic system will be based on ease of access to data and information. Through the apps, citizens will be able to keep consumption under control, adapt the city to their needs, use shared vehicles or book medical visits. The centerpiece of the city will be the observation tower, nicknamed Equitism. The skyscraper will be equipped with photovoltaic panels and water collection systems, as well as hydroponic farms where to produce 0-kilometer food for the community. This modern planning includes transport, territoriality, reduction of consumption, and independent production of different types of energy. Therefore, this term indicates an independent reality capable of creating energy and reducing the impact of man on the environment. The importance of transforming urban centers into greener reality lies in the numbers. Today, about 4 billion people live in cities. In addition, according to a study by the World Bank, this number will double by 2050, making an investment in ecological organization essential. Furthermore, according to the United Nations, Alta cities occupy only 3% of the surface. These centers use up to 80%. of available energy and emit over 75 of carbon dioxide. These numbers are also combined with the figures relating to poverty. For example, about 828 million people today reside in slums, and many of these have difficulty in accessing food and clean water. In addition, according to forecasts, about 95% of the global expansion of urban centers will be concentrated in developing countries. For this reason, a sustainable city is not only capable of producing clean energy, but must also guarantee inclusiveness and support for the poorest areas. But in 2030, if we have not kept our word for a better planet right away, if we have not supported the weakest, those left behind, what would we have left for our children? And worse still, to their children. For this reason, I have to talk about sustainability. It's one of the most commonly used words, along with COVID-19. We find it everywhere, in newspaper, in press releases, in political rhetoric, in the corporate and institutional programs, in the recovery fund and school books. We are in danger of making anti-age fertile rhetoric as transparency, reforms, anti-corruption, democracy, or to be more familiar to this audience, perestroika, prezivadistia Russia. Sorry for my pronunciation. Let us ask ourselves whether anyone has checked if public opinion, the ordinary people, can fully perceive the importance and cruciality of this principle. As is often the case, some abuse this concept, and once again we see absurd phenomena and misses and ramblings of the concept of the sustainability. Financial lobbies have studied the stratagem of ethical and sustainable finance, a definition that is not yet been traced back to the right tracks. There are investment funds that declare to invest in products of companies aligned to the target of Paris for the reduction of gas emission, and that instead sees among the invested famous company that own pipelines also blocked by the American administration, for example. In Italy, according to a recent analysis, 20 largest funds sold as ESG, environmental, social, and governance, all the investment in 17 fossil fuel producers. Only with the entry into force in March of the Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation, all management companies will be required to clarify by 30 December 2022 how to take into account the main negative investment effects on sustainability factors. It is, however, a step forward, recognizing sustainability as a key factor in investment. Lots of bank and financial institutions in recent years have distinguished themselves for shady maneuvers and illicit trades. They are still cashing to sell products that are absolutely not clear. They are still cashing and exploiting resources, diamonds for example, of the so-called third world countries, continuing to issue products unclear. In the same moment, they fire people, avoiding confrontation with the representative workers, but present splendid budget of sustainability, obtaining the higher ratings from international agencies that in turn had been among the protagonists of the financial crisis of the first decade of the 21st century. and then tobacco and weapons lobbyists, by funding pseudo-sustainable campaign and initiative, seeks to regain a virginity they have never had. However, I think it is appropriate to take a step back, as not to mix the topics. The industrial development, the economic development, the competition between economies, the unbridled use of resources and the end for that, the resort to walks and the distraction of inter-community, the lack of incentives towards our planet and climate change, the pollution, the gas emissions reaching an unbearable level for any human being. They finally convinced in 2015 all UN members to commit in the Sustainable Development Goals, our shared vision to end poverty, to rescue the planet and build a peaceful world. At that historic session, 17 crucial objectives goals for the implementation of this program were approved, and a deadline was set for the implementation, 2030. For this reason, it is so-called Agenda 2030. What are these goals? End poverty and zero hunger, environment, clean energy, climate action, peace, education, and others. Between some diffidence and some usual distinguish, finally they began to put in effect the operating lines. They launched the first programs, arrived at the first concrete results. But then, here comes the COVID. Then in a very short time, upsets the world, changes our life, defines new priorities of resistance and survival. No country, rich or poor, has been spared the human and economic shock of COVID-19. Millions of lives and livelihoods were lost. Never have we been so connected by a shared experience. During the pandemic, talking about Agenda 2030 seemed a blasphemy. Yet after the initial shock, man understands that sustainable development assumes vital importance and, if possible, even more urgent. It is the only weapon that man and our society have to guarantee a future for the new generations. Act now for SDGs and support a brighter future for the most vulnerable people in the planet. Our shared vision to end poverty, rescue the planet, and build a peaceful world. The time has come for a global movement that will drive a better recovery and deliver the 2030 promise by mobilizing individuals, families, communities, business, cities, smart or not, and countries to make the Sustainable Development Goals their own. With just 9 years left to achieve the SDG, the time has come to deliver on our commitments. Our shared vision to end poverty, rescue the planet, and build a peaceful world has never been so critical. Millions of people are being the brunt of world's worst crisis. But how we can do this? What we need to do? We can achieve and support all this. Each of us is just a grain of sand. It takes investment, it takes money, lots of money. And unfortunately, the pandemic emergency has stoned and burned many. The United Nations, through the joint SDG Fund, has launched just 2 days ago a new way to collect donations involving everyone starting from any amount. This fund has been issued to accelerate progress in this last decade of action. It is uniquely capable of bringing about substantial positive change in achieving the SDG. The Joint Sustainable Development Goal is an innovative way to collect money to involve people. It's an instrument to incentivize the transformative policy shifts and stimulate the strategic investment required to get the world back on track to meet the goals. These funds will allocate their resources where it's more urgent and strategic. Also, thanks to this fund, we could be the generation to end extreme poverty, win against climate change, injustice, and achieve gender equality. Together, an unstoppable force in achieving the goals. With just 9 years left, the time has come to deliver on our promise. Our contribution will drive sustainable innovation, financial investments, and technology while making space in our countries and communities for young people to lead. We could support countries to enhance women's employment, uphold the rights and needs of women in government financing strategies. Our contribution will help uphold gender equality by providing services to those otherwise left behind, especially women, children, and informal workers. We could support entrepreneurs, including youth and persons with disabilities, giving support in terms of seed funding, marketing, digitalization, and product design to improve their businesses. We could support the development of new guidelines on domestic violence against women and children. It will help create the first ever accredited online learning module for medical professionals addressing issues of women and children with psychosocial needs developed with the universities and public defender's office, in addition to a network of organizations working on the right of persons victims of violence. In the poorest countries of Africa and Far East, we could support workers and their families to enjoy increased social protection and access to quality public services, notably health, as well as education and decent work in a safer and more empowered environment. We could support each country to develop the first instrument for blended finance, to invest in small and medium businesses and be able to create thousands of jobs, helping them making a profit and an impact on sustainable development, creating employment opportunities in sustainable agriculture and other sectors. We could support countries in organizing training courses for government officials on COVID-19 response, social security standards, and financing social protection. Also partnered with national universities and community institutions to design and deliver tailored training on social protection. We could support the work of academic partners to design and increase the rollout of a special COVID-19 grant that will reach millions of people in the poorest countries. We could support a COVID-19 package that provides cash support to millions of vulnerable people that lost income to the pandemic. Social assistance focuses on the elderly, people with disabilities. We could support decarbonizing industries and transportation sectors by contributing to renewable resources and providing energy to vulnerable populations. Our contribution will help governments decarbonize, reducing the country's dependence on fossil fuels. We could support countries to create a new generation of financial products to combat climate change at scale by transitioning the country towards low impact energy, protecting the environment, and empowering the creation of women led small business and the new generation of impact driven. So there are a lot of things to do. Our contribution will tap into solar energy potential through the Green Financing Facility, which will offer financing solutions to accelerate the adoption of renewable energy and energy efficient technologies by small business and targeted households. This facility will promote combined investment for renewable energy and energy efficiency. We could support blue and green economies by protecting the ocean, managing waste and rehabilitating mangroves and coral reefs. We can help boost recycling efforts, transform waste into energy, and develop the sustainable tourism sector in countries most affected by climate change. We can contribute to making business become a resource of the ocean and not a threat. We could support the development of a landfill that helps to recycling, transforming waste to energy where environment and public health risks are widespread. Our contribution will support programs like climate adaptation and mitigation, innovative blended finance, and technical assistance facility that assist water, sanitation, solid waste management business to extend concessional loans, grants, and guarantees. Yes, I know. Some might argue that these are needs, especially of distant countries, and that they bring them no direct benefit. It's the most wrong, selfish concept in this world. As at least in my humble opinion, it's absurd to talk about the third dose of the vaccine in the richest countries when, in some areas of the world, there has not even been provided for the first one. If we don't get full geographic coverage, we risk never getting out this damn virus. So let's put together many grains of sand. Let's involve the young. The world is full of Greta Thunberg guys who, despite what we think, fear and have understood that now they decide their future and that of their children. By giving birth to them, we promise them a better life than we did. These semi-youngers now rightly accuse us of having compromised their faith with the foolish research of our well-being by making prevail our selfishness. Together, we can deliver the extraordinary, and we must keep our promise to the global goals and create the world we want to see today and for our future. Keeping the promise. Support a brighter future for the most vulnerable people. Without a smart planet, we never have smart cities, and Telosa will remain a dream in the desert. Thank you.